Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the Midday News here on 3FM 92.7. My name is Beatrice Adu. The news is also live on Kesmi 107.1 FM and across the country at 3news.com. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. National Council for Curriculum and Assessment withdraws SHS new physical education and health teachers manual over gender definition content. Also on the program, experts welcome Gambia's decision to commence payment of reparations to victims of human rights violations committed between July 1994 and January 2017. Much later on the program, Transport Ministry set to meet with commercial transport operators over the practice of renting vehicles and the creation of artificial scarcity in the transport sector. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. But let's cross over now to the Jubilee House, where the government spokesperson and Minister for Government Communication, Felix Kwachio-Fosu, is currently responding to questions as he takes his turn at the Government Accountability Series.
Mr. Minister, please, I have two questions. One is that His Excellency, when he was in opposition, he campaigned that when it comes to the presidency, the name of the seat of government will be reversed from the Jubilee House to Flagstaff House. And we have gone through 1 year, and the name is being maintained as Jubilee House for the meantime. We don't know when it will be reversed, or we should go by Jubilee House. Then the second question is, we've sent some troops to Jamaica. We would like to know how they are faring, and then are we expecting to send more of them to help in the reconstruction of Jamaica? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Reverend.
My name is Wisdom Hedejime. I work with TVXYZ. Now, you ended year one without any scandal, as Ghanaians are calling that a free year, no scandal. Public officers had a good conduct, and what should we expect in year two? Because then year one, you said we are stabilizing the economy. What should we expect in year two? And then your priorities. And then again, the president is very particular about the implementation of the affirmative action law. What exactly is the modalities in the implementation? And then I want to know, the Media Development Fund, when is it going to be rolled out, and who stands to benefit? Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Well, Minister, my name is Dominic Nana Kwaminan Sapra from Metro TV. My question has to do with the Commander Sugar Factory.
Yes, I think
what is the current update on that?
Right,
the Commander people want to know. And also the MPP is also electing a leader on the 31st of January. We want to know, there have been some prophecies so far, prophecies of doom. You created an office for that. Let's know how things are going so far. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, my name is Julius.
Sure.
I report for the Ghanaian Times.
All right.
Mr. Minister, early this year, somewhere on the 5th, former Finance Minister Ken Oforiatta was detained by ICE, a U.S. agency in charge of immigration. This is a man the state has been looking for. Are we taking advantage of his detention? Is the government of Ghana engaging the American authorities to sanitize the space and take advantage of he being held there and then have him extradited to Ghana? And then secondly, there's one big elephant in the room that we don't normally talk about, which has to do with rent issues here in the country. The rent laws are very clear, but you see landlords colluding with agents and then abusing the law. What's government's position on this, and how are you going to ensure that these laws are enforced to give people some reprieve that they need? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Sorry, on the back of the Fuyakta question, I just wanted to ask this. The agreement we had with the United States of America on deportation, I wanted to know how many deportees we've received, how many we've repatriated, and if there were some who wanted to stay here, we're still sending them away. Thank you.
All right.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Minister. My name is Patrick Asford Boedu, Radio Gold. I just want to find out from you if you have any updates or how far with investigation.
And you're still here on the Midday News on 3FM 92.7. We just brought you a bit of that interaction with Minister for Government Communication, Felix Kwachio-Fosu, answering questions as he takes his turn at the Government Accountability Series. Of course, we'll bring you his answers and more in our subsequent bulletins. But for now, though, let's bring you this. The National Council for Curriculum and Assessment, NaCCA, has withdrawn printed copies of a senior high school teacher manual after admitting that certain aspects of the content on gender identity in the two-year physical education and health, that elective teacher manual, did not align with the country's culture, norms and values. A revised version of the manual reflecting national values and biological understanding has now been released. The move comes amid allegations by Member of Parliament for Asin North, Reverend John Intim-Fojo, that the government was promoting an LGBTQ agenda through teacher manuals and other teaching and learning materials in schools. In a statement, NaCCA clarified the distinction between the official SHS curriculum and teacher support materials, stressing that the curriculum itself contains no LGBTQ-related content. But Reverend John Intim-Fojo insists that officials at NaCCA are sleeping on the job and must be sacked.
One act of irresponsibility on the part of the Ministry of Education and NaCCA. And that is why I say the NaCCA Director General must resign by now. He's lying, he's throwing, he has failed on his job. He has printed this. We didn't develop this. What we developed is a curriculum. What does the first paragraph say? It said that the curriculum, as we approved it, does not have any LGBT element. So they came to develop the Year 2 teacher manual and introduce these alien concepts. And then they go ahead to blame TTEL rather disingenuously and rather irresponsibly. TTEL has no wrongdoing. TTEL has no hand in this grand LGBT agenda by the Ministry of Education. The framework for ensuring that teaching and learning material gets to the classroom is that regardless whether a private publisher or an independent consultant develops a teaching and learning material or textbook or supplementary material, it comes to NaCCA. Even if TTEL or any independent consultant for that matter did anything like this, it comes to NaCCA for NaCCA to do their final review before they emboss it with a NaCCA logo to indicate that this is a NaCCA approved material. So the attempt to throw TTEL under the bus, the attempt to sacrifice TTEL instead of the Director General of NaCCA incompetently watching and deliberately pushing this poison to our students is not acceptable. Because even no matter whoever develops a textbook or supplementary or teacher manual, NaCCA, according to their mandate, is the final authority who does the checks. So who did the checks?
Who did the checks? He asked. Well, that was Reverend John Intim-Fojo. He's the Member of Parliament for Asin South. Let's speak to the Executive Director for the Africa Education Watch, Mr. Kofi Asare. Good afternoon to you, sir. Thank you very much for joining us.
Hi, good afternoon.
What do you know about this manual in question?
Yeah, this is a teacher's manual. It's not too common within our curriculum space. They were introduced to fill in the gap between the late textbooks and then the curriculum readiness. And these manuals guide teachers in their application of the curriculum in schools. And so it happens, I think on Friday or so, someone drew my attention to this. It happens that there was some unprescribed content in the teacher's manual, which is unprescribed and inconsistent, to the best of my understanding, with the curriculum for physical education. The teacher's manual is supposed to be an offshoot of the curriculum because it is supposed to aid in its implementation. So if there is no coherence, then it means that the teacher's manual, that particular provision is actually hanging and hasn't any expression in the curriculum. And when that happens, what is done is that you expunge it, review the curriculum to be double sure, and review the teacher's manual to be double sure that no strands of the unapproved content is found, within context or in content of both documents. And that is what we expect NaCCA to do. What has happened is a breach of quality control mechanism that should be in place. And I must say that if you have an idea about the stringent quality assurance measures in place for textbooks, you will simply come to the conclusion that perhaps because teacher manuals are not formally part of the, the curriculum, system, the quality assurance mechanisms were either relaxed or, they are relaxed because if it's anyone close to what is just for textbooks, it should have been settled long ago. And so it's a wake-up call to the Ministry of Education and NaCCA to strengthen quality assurance, in the development of not just curriculum and textbooks, but also all other content, including manuals, related to the implementation of curriculum.
You admit that indeed this was an omission, as it were, on the part of NaCCA. Would you support that call from the Member of Parliament for, Reverend Intim Fojo, that because he feels NaCCA members were sleeping on the job, the director should be sacked or resign?
Well, I have no evidence that NaCCA members were sleeping on the job. And I don't know the extent to which they slept, if they indeed slept. And so I don't think I'm competent to respond to that. But what must be clear to all of us is that when quality assurance systems are breached, you immediately take remedial measures and ensure that the breach is reversed. And I think I saw a directive from the NaCCA. I had the NaCCA board chair speak yesterday, and I saw a directive from NaCCA that it has recalled and actually rectified the changes in the amended version of the manual, which is currently on NaCCA's website.
Indeed.
And that is what happens when it's okay, you take remedial measures and ensure that moving forward, further content, doesn't become contaminated with unapproved content.
Indeed, that was what the statement said, which said that a revised version of the manual reflecting, just to be specific, national values and biological understanding has now been released. Nonetheless, should Ghanaians be worried that this even happened? It had to come in the media space, and of course, we've had NaCCA clarifying whether we are right now.
It is good that we are all watchmen over our education system. It is good that, this is not the first time we are having this discussion, right? Similar one happened. We've had similar instances where unapproved content, found their way into textbooks. We've had many instances, okay? And so it is always good that as these instances occur, we are alert. The media is alert. Citizens are alert. So that immediately we see this, we raise them. No system is 100%, perfect. So it takes the vigilance of all of us, including the media, including the members of parliament, everyone, to be vigilant and ensure that not just, content relating to sex and sexuality, but all unapproved content or content that are not factual, that are not consistent with facts and values and whatever it is. Every content seen in textbooks, whether approved or unapproved, once the textbook is in a system and used in schools, we've always raised them, and it's good. We must promote that culture so that we don't leave it to just one or two CSOs or a few media. It should be everyone's responsibility. So it is a good omen that when such breaches occur, we see them early, because these manuals, the development started long ago, but they were just published. And so just when they were hitting, the schools, the vigilance of citizens led to unearthing this blunder. And so it is good that we are all involved in ensuring that the right things are done in our education system. And I'll commend everyone, including the honourable member who raised the issue in public, for being vigilant. Let's continue to be vigilant.
Let me ask you my final question. Moving forward, looking at what has happened, what would be your recommendations?
Well, the recommendation is that the teacher manual be reviewed. You see, the challenge is that the secondary education curriculum is very, very...
You have just one.
And we'll have to bring you more in our subsequent bulletins. You heard that Kofi Asare, he's the executive director of the education think tank Africa Education Watch. The Gambia Reparations Commission has announced that it has commenced the payment of reparations to victims of human rights violations committed between July 1994 and January 2017. A press release issued by the commission said this marks a significant milestone in its mandate to facilitate justice, restore dignity, and support the recovery of victims who endured violations during the specified period. The statement indicates that payments are being disbursed in phases and by year of violation, beginning with victims whose violations occurred in 1994. The Commission is actively contacting eligible victims and victim groups to verify information and complete the necessary steps for disbursement. It's also recorded that more than 44 Ghanaians and other nationals were killed in 2005 during the Yahya Jammeh-led administration in the Gambia. Let's speak to William Nyako, Executive Director, Africa Center for International Law and Accountability, and Coordinator, Jammeh to Justice, Ghana Coalition. He joins us on the phone. Good afternoon to you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good afternoon, and thanks for having me.
After so many years of back and forth, some sort of justice and closure is being brought to the victims of these human rights violations. Your immediate reaction?
Oh, yes. I mean, this is one part of the reparations. You know, reparations include money, can include money, and can also include the justice part, which is bringing people to account. So this part is welcome. Imagine that your rights have been violated in 1994, and in 2026, part of the reparations is going to be given. So it's a significant milestone for both the victims, the Gambian people, as well as even the commission that's going to undertake this.
Unfortunately, some of the victims who are waiting for this might have passed on, but really, how significant is this development for victims of human rights violations, especially the same people committed under the Yahya Jammeh era?
In a sense, it still remains significant because victims' families will represent them in this matter. But it would have been obviously better, as you're saying, if justice and reparations had occurred way before this time. But some of these things do take time. And given that Yahya Jammeh was in power from 1994 until December 2017, during his time, there was no way that people could have gotten justice. So he had to go off the seat as he was defeated in the election at that time and had to be sort of forced to leave, and where he's in Equatorial Guinea in exile. But these are important steps that, as you know, they began with the Truth, Reconciliation and Reparations Commission sitting and going through all the violations that occurred from 94. And then when they ended their work, the implementation of the recommendations needed a vehicle, which is the Reparations Commission.
Would you say that this is, a step towards real justice? Because earlier you were saying that this is just one of many steps that ought to be taken.
Yes, this is the financial aspect. There are also other things that come with this, which is also, as we know, that the Commission is also providing psychosocial support to some of the victims as well. So the money part is part of it. But the other part, which is bringing Yahya Jammeh and the 12, in the case of the Ghanaian unlawful killings, the TRC recommended that Yahya Jammeh and 12 others should be brought to trial for this. there's been some movement positive movement towards this part. First, in Gambia, in April 2024, the National Assembly, the Parliament, passed a Special Prosecutors Act, which sounds like Ghana. This was to establish the domestic framework for the establishment of a special court for the Gambia, for prosecution of Yaya. In December last year, the ECOWAS heads of state approved the establishment of the special court. So that's going to take part of the justice part. But even then, there have been 3 convictions of some of the Yaya members, especially those who took part in some of the killings of the Ghanaians. 2 years ago, Michael Correa, who was part of the team that caused these unlawful deaths to Ghanaians, was sentenced to about 68 years in the U.S. He had run there, and we had mobilized to have him prosecuted. Another one, who was one of the drivers, called Bailo, he drove the other soldiers and the Ghanaians to the well where they shot them and killed them. He had run to Germany to seek refuge. We mobilized international partners, and he was also prosecuted and jailed for life. And finally, there's also Osman Sonko, who was the Minister of Interior at the time those killings happened. He was also seeking refuge in Switzerland. We mobilized through our international partners. He was also sentenced to 20 years. So there's some movement, but as we say, Gambia 2.0 will be when Yaya Jammeh, when the court is established, Yaya Jammeh, a former head of state, and his 12 accomplices will be tried.
Thank you so much, sir, for Mr. Nyako, for speaking to us.
Thanks for having me.
And you had there Mr. William Nyako. He's the Executive Director, African Center for International Law and Accountability, and also coordinator of Jammeh to Justice Ghana Coalition. Some more here. The Ministry of Transport is set to meet with commercial transport operators over the practice of renting vehicles and the creation of artificial scarcity in the transport sector. The situation is leading to long queues at lorry stations, also leading to frustrations among commuters. This was disclosed by the Minister in charge of Government Communications during his accountability series.
Regarding the regrettable congestion that has happened regarding public transport, indeed, I got off the line with the Transport Minister barely 30 minutes ago. First of all, what has happened is that there are some transport operators who are engaging in rent-seeking behavior. Because ordinarily, transportation is a largely private sector-driven activity in Ghana. We have these transport unions, GPRTU and what have you, who organize transport systems that convey the generality of our people. For some reason, after the persistent reduction in fuel prices, which led the transport organizations to announce a 15% reduction in transport fares, there are some operators within the system who thought that they could engage in rent-seeking behavior by creating artificial shortages. So look, that government indeed is looking at it to ensure that those engaging in that activity are brought to order, because there's an agreement between government and the transport unions to fix transportation prices twice a year, unless some extraordinary circumstance dictates otherwise. So we urge the transport operators to adhere to the normal practice. In addition to that, there are quite a number of Metro Mass buses that had broken down. So he has ordered their expedited servicing to ensure that in a matter of days, they are back on the road. But they will operate outside of their normal routes and schedules in order to take care of the present congestion that is going on. The minister also informs me that I think tomorrow or so, he has requested for a meeting with the GPRTU and other transport operators to address the issue of rent seeking, to call those engaged in that activity to order so that the hardship is alleviated. But ultimately, a lot of work is being done to increase the fleet of the metro.
Phyllis Kwachofoso also touched on President Mahama's promise to scrap ex gratia.
The long-standing concerns of Ghanaians that it creates a disparity between different categories of workers. and therefore something needs to be done. So the phenomenon as it exists now will no longer continue. Indeed, the president has said, and he actually recommended for the Constitution Review Commission to factor it in there, but I think it is in there, that an independent emoluments committee be set up. It's a standing committee that works all year round. It is not formed in the twilight of any government. So they will do an independent assessment of the level of work that public officials put in vis-a-vis other categories of public workers and come to a determination that is fair and balanced and avoids the huge gulf that exists between Article 71 office holders and other categories of public sector workers. Once this is done, I'm sure that it will put an end to the perennial uproar that greets the announcement of ex gratia payments and what have you. So President Mahama is very much committed to the promise that he made to the people of Ghana. Thank you.
And you heard Felix Kwankye-Ofosu, he's the Minister in charge of Government Communications. The Accra High Court has granted Kwadwo Owusu Bempah, the General Manager of Akunta Mining, a bail of 10 million Ghana cedis with 3 sureties, one to be justified. Owusu Bempah, together with MPP Ashanti Regional Chairman Bernard Entwi Boesiako, also known as Chairman Woon Tume, are among 5 accused persons charged with multiple illegal mining offences, including felling of trees in a forest reserve, abetting and aiding the construction of unauthorized structures at the Tano Nimi Forest Reserve. Andrew Votia is lawyer for the 5th accused.
He must screenshot charge sheet that he's large. So I wouldn't that information because he got it with me. And he came to Accra. And the police headquarters about 3 days ago. He was interrogated. His statement was caution on 3 counts. And the police admitted him to be. So he left. We reported the next day. So after reporting, they gave another time to report. But he fell sick. And all that moment he was at the hospital. So having recovered with a medical report, we reported on Monday 12th to the police. Then they said because they got reach the previous reporting, they are taking it to court today. So we will detain from Monday today. We are in court.
Okay, so the substantive matter. What is this offense?
He was charged with count 3 has got to do with illegal mining in the forest. Then he was alleged to abetted felling of trees at Nimri Forest around some of the. Then he abetted building put up a structure. That's a building in the forest. So those are the 3 offenses he was charged with. Illegal mining, unauthorized felling, abatement of unauthorized felling of trees, then abatement of building a structure in the forest, for which he pleaded not guilty on all the 3 counts. And he was admitted to bail in the sum of 10 million Ghana cedis with 3 sureties, 1 to be justified.
Counsel, he indicated that he was unwell, for which reason he could not appear before the police when he was requested. Did you show any medical reports to sort of appease the investigators?
Yes, in fact, I gave a copy of the medical report to the investigator. He had an accident in 2002, had a spinal cord problem. So when he came, it aggravated. So he spent 3 days at the hospital in Tema C25. So we spent some time in the hospital before we reported.
And you had Andrew Votia, he's lawyer for the 5th accused in the Akunta mining court case. Of course, we'll bring you some more in our subsequent bulletins. My name is Beatrice Adu. Thank you very much for joining us on the Midday News today on Sri FM 92.7. Log on to srinews.com for more news. Have a good afternoon.
Hello there, good afternoon and welcome to Business Daily on 3FM 92.7. Coming up, Ghana's economy shows signs of strengthening as provisional growth rises to 3.8% in October 2025 on the back of strong services and improved industry activities.
Overall growth increased from 3% in October 2024 to 3.8% in October 2025.
And the dollar demand rises as business restock, with Bank of Ghana assuring market of adequate forex supply amid early first quarter pressures. I am Michael Obodu. Details of these and many other stories coming up shortly. Please stay. Thank you so much for your time. Straight into our top story. And Ghana's economy recorded a provisional growth rate of 3.8% in October 2025, improving from 3% in the same period last year. According to the latest monthly indicator of economic growth released by the Ghana Statistical Service, the year-on-year expansion was driven largely by sustained growth in the services sector and a sharp rebound in industrial activity, even as agriculture continued to lag behind other sectors. Government statistician Dr. Alhassan Idrisu spoke at a press conference on the release of monthly indicator of economic growth October 2025 in Accra.
Overall growth increased from 3% in October 2024 to 3.8% in October 2025, indicating stronger economic performance. Agriculture grew more slowly in October 2025 than same period in 2024. Industry expanded much faster in October 2025 than same period in 2024. Services maintained strong and stable growth over the period. The sustained upward trend in October suggests positive momentum entering the final quarter of the year, and I'm talking about 2025. While monthly figures can be volatile, the data signals continued expansion, particularly from the services and industry sectors.
That was government statistician Dr. Alhassan Idrisu speaking. Now, demand for the US dollar has picked up in recent days as businesses move to restock imports for the rest of the year, putting renewed pressure on Ghana's foreign exchange market and prompting fresh assurances from the Bank of Ghana on cedi stability and forex availability. There is more in the following 3 Business News Desk report.
Data from commercial banks show that bids submitted at the Bank of Ghana's foreign exchange auctions in the first and second weeks of January were dominated by the manufacturing and energy sectors. At one of the recent auctions, the central bank offered about $125 million within a band of 10 cedis 70 pesos to 10 cedis 71 pesos. However, total bids reached about $366 million, highlighting strong demand amid relatively thin supply. Analysts expect pressure on the cedi to persist in the coming weeks as business activity normalizes and some firms prepare to pay dividends to foreign shareholders. Interbank market checks last week showed about $7 million traded within the 10 cedis 71 and 10 cedis 72 pesos range, with analysts estimating a year-to-date depreciation of about 1.63%. Despite the seasonal pressures typical of the first quarter, the Bank of Ghana says there is no cause for panic. The central bank insists it has sufficient reserves and will intervene when necessary under its foreign exchange intermediation program to stabilize the market.
That was a 3 Business News Desk report. Away from that, the Chamber of Agribusiness Ghana has described the One District, One Factory, 1D1F program, which was a flagship industrialization plan, as a policy failure. The Chamber made this declaration after it conducted a comprehensive review of the program, calling for the urgent establishment of a National Industries Development and Regulatory Authority to prevent reoccurrence of failed industrial policies to position the country for genuine industrial transformation. CEO of the Chamber, Anthony Morrison, said although 1D1F was presented to Ghanaians as the nation's industrial breakthrough, promising job creation, enhanced competitiveness, import substitution, and economic growth, the program had instead entrenched high-cost production, debt distress, and widespread factory underutilization.
I will not call it a success story, but a resilient story, okay? Had to fence off about 7,000 acres on their own. That was a raw material that was critical towards the success of the factory. All these were not adhered to. That notwithstanding as well, we also took the pain and looked at some key areas. And the fact that we call it a scam and an unproductive sector is that the program was marketed as Ghana's industrial breakthrough. But in reality, though it promised jobs, competitiveness, import substitution, exports, what we got was it entrenched high cost of production, debt distress, and underutilized factories. If you go around the country, and I can go around the country with you and your cameraman, you will see the 1D1F factories that are white elephants all over the country.
You heard that Anthony Kwesi Sapong. He is I beg your pardon, and that was the CEO of the Chamber of Agribusiness, Anthony Morrison, speaking there. Away from that, a member of the committee tasked with negotiating debts owed to independent power producers is urging government to accelerate private sector participation in the operations of the Electricity Company of Ghana, ECG. Ben Boachi, who is also Executive Director of the Africa Center for Energy Policy, ACEP, has meanwhile commended the Minister of Finance and the Electricity Company of Ghana for their commitment to settling outstanding obligations to power generators.
It's really commendable how the government has been committed to paying its debt and addressing the energy sector problems sustainably. There are a few other things that need to be done to actually tighten the challenges, to resolve the challenges and tighten the rules around fiscal governance in the energy sector, which I've seen progress on. The private sector participation in ECG has been ongoing for the past 10 months or so. From my estimation, I think we've slowed on that quite significantly. We need to pick up the steam on that and be able to conclude on it and make sure that all the sector payments can be covered by revenues that are coming, from ECG and then NETCO. And if we're able to do that, that frees, the finance minister to be able to spend much more significantly on socio-economic development.
And that was Ben Boachi. He is the Executive Director of the Africa Center for Energy Policy, ACEP, bringing an end to Business Daily on 3FM 92.7. For more business stories, please check out our website. It's 3news.com/business. I am Michael Obodu. Thank you for listening. As always, please stay safe. Up next is Urban Blend, and Black Rasta is on standby. Stay tuned.
The Electoral Commission